Thanks IGC 2021 for giving us an opportunity to present our project. My name is Changjie Chen. I'm currently a postdoctoral associate of the Florida Institute for Built Environment Resilience, aka FIBER, at the University of Florida. Alongside with me today is Lu-Wei Wang. She is a PhD candidate from the College of Design, Construction, and Planning at the University of Florida. Our project emphasizes user issues, ecological concerns, and the regional and cultural issues, as well as highlights potential conflicts between urban expansion and the desire of a sustainable built environment. We used metrics implemented by the Geodesign framework to demonstrate how various land use strategies to accommodate the needs generated by population growth and urbanization affect the long-term viability of human settlements and the biotic and abiotic systems over the course of roughly 3 decades. The Apopka study area we used in this project is roughly a 10 by 10 kilometer square territory as shown in the map, which is 12 miles northwest from the downtown of city of Orlando. Serving as a bedroom community in the greater Orlando metropolitan area, the Apopka study area faces one of the most intensive population growth in the state of Florida. According to the American Community Survey, ACS, by the US Census Bureau, the population growth rate is at 28% annually during the last 5 decades. Our project aims at mitigating this pressure of rapid urbanization and population growth by adopting a more efficient development strategy. Here on the right, we listed the specific innovations that our project implemented, including categories of water, green infrastructure, transportation, and mixed-use development.
Specifically, our projects deal with land use types to implement a suitable infrastructure land system, SLLS, in the city of Apopka, Florida, USA. So SLS, we apply, integrate, and promote innovative actions and examine the consequences of early, late, and non-adopters at 3 timestamps, 2020, 2035, 2050. We found that early adopter scenarios maintain the lowest growth density when compared to the late and non-adopter scenarios. In addition, from spectral metrics measurement of sustainable development goals with 8 geodesign systems, the early adopter scenario calculates the highest score of 209 credits, which is higher than late and non-adopter scenarios. The contribution for carbon sequestration also is reviewed in the project and national level assessment. In project level, early adopter scenarios project the number of 261,800 trees that conserved, lost, and replaced, totally 4,658,000 kilograms of carbon sequestrated. It also contributes 6,715 number of trees conserved and 160 carbon per capita conserved nationally. Early adopter scenarios are much better than other 2 scenarios in contributing the tree carbon sequestration in both project level and the national level assessment.
To illustrate the Sustainable Development Goals we envisioned for the Apopka study area, our design team zoomed into a sub-area near the historical downtown of Apopka. As shown in these renderings, by combining alternative transportation modes, linear parks, and mixed-use developments, we intend to promote a sustainable built environment where connectivity is enhanced, quality of life is improved, and local identity is preserved. Finally, we would like to applaud both the instructors and the students of LAA 6656 for their solid efforts throughout the course of spring 2021. Specifically, we want to thank Yanni, Eliza, and Yuya for their excellent work in designing the 2050 future land use scenario. And we want to acknowledge the valuable datasets provided by the sources listed on the right.
So we are all recalling your attention for City Apopka and geodesign application. Please take actions as early as possible in facing and tracking challenges. Projects like we conduct, providing a solution for parallelizing connectivity and creating a sense of place through mixed use, high density, residential developments, parks, and alternative transportation, which definitely will help drive smart growth within the city of Apopka. So thanks again, IGC 2021, for having our project.
Hello, I am Andrea. I am a geographer. I live in Rio Claro City, São Paulo, Brazil. The title of this study is The Potential of Geodesign for the Optimization of Land Use in the Perspective of Sustainability, case study of the Metropolitan region of Campinas. The RMC is densely occupied, principally in urban area, dynamic economically and technologically, research and teaching centers, intense development, rapid occupation without adequate planning. Consequence, serious damage to natural resources, demanding more effective strategies for the use and occupation of land. Characterization of the study area. The RMC is formed by 20 municipalities and has more than 3 million inhabitants, predominantly in urban area. The Geodesign workshop was divided in 5 days. Day 1, reading enrichment, with based in 2020 scenario, by annotation and 43 maps. Day 2, construction of ideas for non-adopter, 2035 and 2050 scenarios, through dialogues 2. Results, vegetation and housing predominated. Day 3, construction of ideas through dialogues 2. Results increased 95 and 54% of carbon credit in 2050 scenario. Day 4, construction of ideas through dialogues 2. Results, expansion of vegetation in practically all axes. In the 2050 proposals, increase for carbon credit of 142 by 2050 scenario. For evaluation of the proposals, was used the conflict matrix containing the 10 systems and considering the 17 objectives of ODS. The main feature of the geodesign from the perspective of sustainability. Participants were divided into 3 groups with 4 members. The groups environmental, economic, social. The group environmental is formed for vegetation, carbon credit, hydrograph. Economic, energy, trade, industry, transport, agriculture. Social, housing, institutions, tourism, culture, leisure. Finally, the current scenario was worked from the enrichment of the reading in which the participants register alerts, highlights of potentialities to be explored and vulnerabilities to be corrected. They prepared a considerable volume of proposals, 113 in all, covering all 10 systems with good proposals, but they stood out in the analysis and the criticisms. Project participants and supporting materials. Thank you very much.
Hi, we are presenting now the results of the São Paulo team work in the Brazil Geodesign efforts that get 12 cities throughout the country, metropolitan areas throughout the country. We are talking now about trees for São Paulo metropolitan region. And it's very interesting to see how we can, in this project, try to achieve 30% increase in tree cover or in the metropolitan area. Of course, this will be followed by three main principles. One is to conserve the existing green areas that is around city. That city is the fourth biggest metropolitan region in the world and is first in the Americas, but have a very singular geographical condition. It's a hotspot in the ecological process between the rainforest called Atlantic Forest and the metropolitan urban sprawl. So it's very interesting how we can balance this forest with the city. And inside the city, inside the urban fabric, is where we can have the most challenging issues for achieving this increase of tree cover. Anyway, you have these big areas that should be required to attend it. The main geodesign for trees in metropolitan regions are, as I said, the 30% increase in tree cover by 2050, and also its contribution to carbon sequestration. Also, we are contemplating the 10 systems that the geodesign framework guide us to do. The specific requirements also followed by the process that we are trying to make during 4 days. And also the 4 days were following by a review of all the existing data that are about this region, the construction of the non-adopter and late adopter and early adopters following the following days, trying to make the different scenarios. And everyone was trying to make in the early adopter, which was the most interesting scenario, how we should protect the existing landscape, green areas, the expanding of these green areas, and also creating new areas for vegetation growth in this metropolitan region. Now, in the next slide, we try to show how we follow the SDG, or the Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations, and how the early adopter solutions starting now would be great advance in this tree coverage of the metropolitan region through 2035 and 2050. Also, we can see that the late adopter starting only in 2035 can achieve some benefits by 2050. But the non-adopters, in the end, will be very, very poorly results that could be not necessarily interesting for the solutions that we are involved to achieve. And also you can see the trees in São Paulo, as you're trying to put, have a very good increase of tree project numbers, the project CO2 capture, and below and above the ground, and also the project carbon per capita, how these early adopter scenarios will be able to achieve these goals. And the late adopter scenario has some increase, but not so interesting. And the no adopter scenario has no way achieve these goals. The next slide show us how this workshop was developed and how we could choose and overlay all this information in a GIS using GIS processing, and also using the GIS Collab, that is a platform developed here in the University of Minas Gerais that was allowed us to use together. The next slide show us one rendering that shows how you could achieve this in very real projects that could be trying to make new versions of the green infrastructure in the city, how you can transform the sustainable drainage of the city, the created sustainable drainage of stormwater in the city, restore the streams of the city, and create a new fabric of green integrated with the urban fabric, and also create multifunctional landscapes that could be able to transform our city, our metropolitan area, with a robust green infrastructure system, web of system. And so we have our team that was very multidisciplinary, and people from other parts of the country also participate, and even outside the country. And we would like to thanks also the people from the Laboratory of Geoprocessing from the University of Minas Gerais, and all the participating here, and the GIS Collab processing material that we are able to use. Acknowledge also the CNPq and the other agencies here that have helped us.
Okay, thank you to everyone who presented. So first question from Brian for Lue and Shanji. He said, as with many other projects, even with the early adopter being the most aggressive design scenario, the challenge of capturing carbon is very evident. So for you two, and then I might pose this to everyone else as well, but how do you think the people and officials of Apopka will receive these proposals? Do you think they're too radical, or do you think the change will be welcome?
Okay, thanks, Brian, for the questions. I think I can answer it, and then Changjie can add it later. So when we think about the location of city of Apopka, actually it serves as a bedroom, function on the metropolitan region. So the place definitely have a spiral effects and influence the city of Apopka, by urban expansion. So we can, we have detected the urban, growth, and see the data can prove that. So even though early adopter is the most aggressive ones, but it is still a very, the best ones in our plan, because our studio designed, with 3 different teams, they have their, own ideas to use their, smart, strategies in tracking with the problems, and to meet the goals we set. So in terms of the goals, and we definitely feed the truth of the city of Apopka regarding to their population growth and the urban expansion rate. So actually now the early adopter, it is the best outcome that we can serve for the future of the city of Apopka. So this is an optimized outcome. So and more details, I think Changjie can answer it, directly. So Changjie, would you take over?
Sure. So I think to speak of the government, the official from Apopka, I think what the early adopter has presented is in line with the city of Apopka comprehensive plan, because we see that in their future land use plan, they also created a high density in their downtown area. So the only the driver of these different scenarios is obviously, as Lu Wei has already mentioned, is the population growth, and this has been one of the highest growth rate area in the entire state of Florida. But however, when we do these designs, we have to acknowledge and be very cautious about the role of the Apopka study area, which is a commuter community and a bedroom community. So people who came here instead of staying at Orlando, probably they have a job at Orlando, but they come to here, so they're looking for bigger house probably that has a yard and that they can play with their kids. So we are very cautious about this, and we designed multiple types of housing for people, and for higher density we kind of restrict a little bit with a high density only around the center of the of this community, but with different density of housings on the going out as it spreads across the entire community. So I think with design features such as parks, linear parks, and shared transit, I think it creates a unique characteristic for people coming from Orlando and want to live in this particular area.
Great. And I also want to pose this question to you, but also if you've seen Brian's next question here, he wants to know if when you wrote on this project, was there a collaboration with the other schools where you borrowed designs and approaches from them, and how that impacted your process? So tying these questions together, I'd also be curious to know for these implementations, was there examples of this already in Campinas that you borrowed from as well? So kind of to summarize this convoluted question, how was the process working? Like, did you borrow from outside of your team, from the other teams in the project, and from existing infrastructure in the city? And do you think the city is going to be likely to adopt these proposals?
Yeah, so maybe I can try to give it a start. And I think, yes, I think the students in the studio, they did a good job, and they borrowed some successful examples from Seattle, Washington, especially for the housing development, that they trying to enhance this character of multi-use development. So not just for residential exclusive zoning, but also bringing different types of grocery, maybe convenience stores, things like that you can have not quite often here in the, not quite often you see in Florida, especially in Apopka area, but more in like big cities like Seattle. So that is kind of, I think, one of the examples that students drew from. I think it's pretty successful.
Okay,
Hello. Yes, I can say about here that our experience in Brazil was very interesting, because we had a challenge that was given. I think started with Brian Orland. He gave us the challenge to how you can plant a enormous amount of trees here. Of course, you have a lot of places to plant these trees, but we thought that if you could start to think about this process in the big cities, in the main metropolitan areas of the city, of the country, you'll be an incredible challenge, because we have in a city like São Paulo, for example. Excuse me? Well, we have, as in a city like São Paulo, the idea that we are fighting against some restraints for vegetation, but we should, if you could give some tree coverage above the level we already have here, it will be more easier to get the other regions of the country and the other parts of the continent, of course. But anyway, what we're trying to achieve here was how we can go away with our idea of giving this more afforestation for the city. And it was very interesting because we could, using these tools of geodesign, get a very huge amount of trees inside the city. We look for three principles that was said. One was preserve what exists of this tree coverage in the city, in areas around city that have a lot of forests around city, areas of big forests that are state reservations. And so we have also the idea of expanding the existing green areas of inside the city, trying to fix about the connections that you could use, for example, the main rivers or the old infrastructural lines that could be connected inside of the urban fabric, and also creating new green areas. We thought that if we could be able to achieve these goals, we will be victorious. You can have all this amount of trees and also counter our emission of greenhouse gases that you think we'll be able to sequester from growing these trees here around the city and in middle of the city, because we are in the main area of creating this, one of the main situations that grows the amount of gases that come out from the urban activity and urban uses. It's interesting that we are able to compare this among the other cities. And also here in Brazil, we get, for example, the idea that cities like in São Paulo, for example, you have more facilities to open new green areas, for example, than in cities in the north of the country. Counterintuitively, because we thought that we'll be able, easier to have more trees in cities where they have a smaller number of people and more open areas. But I don't know how we achieve to get these trees in a city, in a region like so dense occupied like São Paulo, for example, was able to do that. And for the other example that I just showed here in Campinas was exactly the same. You can have a lot of linear parks, a lot of growing the planting of trees in areas that are not anymore used to have these trees, and you see how you can grow that. So I thought that this experiment we did here with these various cities in using this theme of planting trees was very successful and very fruitful to give us the amount of effort that is necessary to get this done, but that's okay. You can get that.
Okay, and I'll pass it off to Anna if you have anything on all this to add.
Hello, good evening. I think the questions about Campinas were very, very simple. I mean, in what relates to working together with the other universities. The workshops didn't happen exactly in the same time. The Campinas workshop was one of the latest ones. So there had been already a lot of workshops, like the São Paulo one had happened before. I think Recife and many other metropolitan regions. So we didn't really work together like at the same time, comparing the proposals, but I think we benefited a lot from their experiences because we already had a feedback regarding what worked and what didn't work, and that helped us a lot to plan the dynamics and to organize the groups and everything. So the students, they didn't really drew from the other workshops, but there was like a matrix of possibilities for each system that was shared between all the 12 groups. And they used that as a basis to developing the proposals, but mainly their own experience in the Campinas area. I'm not from Campinas particularly. I helped from a different city, but most of the students were all in the Campinas metropolitan area. And they developed the proposals using this common basis and also their own experiences and their knowledge, their own research teams. And concerning the groups, so we worked with the sustainability axis, economic, social, and environmental. But the students, they were able to choose their own groups. We didn't assign them ourselves. So they decided in which group they wanted to work relating to their own researches and their own, to what teams they were more close to. I don't know if Andrea wants to complement something. Andrea?
Yes, it was the most appropriate and interesting path because it is a predominantly geographer group.
Exactly. There is also this. They were mainly geography students, graduate students.
Yes, Unesp and Unicamp, Campinas.
Did you find during that process, was it difficult for some of the students to prioritize their specific part of the triad over others? Was there how did negotiations go with their own personal values and then trying to argue for their part of the triad?
No, I don't think they had a lot of difficulties on prioritizing. I think they chose groups that they had a certain closeness to. So, I mean, their research were connected to the teams. And I think there is a process. In the beginning, I don't think the problem was not with prioritizing. I think it takes a while for the students to loosen up and start developing proposals. So in the beginning, they were more shy, developing less proposals, but in the next meeting and in the other one, they were already very, very connected. And I mean, we didn't really have a lot of problems negotiating, maybe because we had this common goal of approaching sustainability. So I don't think we had a lot of conflict. Do you agree, Andrea? Maybe with different approaches, I think that more conflictual issues would be revealed mainly, but I think they were working more in collaboration than in opposition.
In our case here in São Paulo, there was a little difference because we're mostly architects, landscape architects and planners. And also we are most interested in being the early adopters. Nobody wants to be a non-adopter or a late adopter. It was terrible for us to try to think in the mindset of a non-adopter. It would be terrible. So we tried to do the best we could, but it was not necessarily the main goals, because we were trying to put some proposals in going on, in starting to thinking about new ideas of landscape planning and landscape interventions in the city. And of course, we had the previous works we have been done. We're always with rehabilitation and recovering streams and using infrastructure in city. So we got a lot of ideas and innovations easy to get to use for São Paulo now. And we to start to think in new propositive way of how we can achieve all the covering of the city, all covering not, but the most of the covering of the city with tree covering. Of course, the canopy will be a wonderful situation for São Paulo, because you got terrible problems in urban heat islands and other climates changing problems that are arriving now. And so we need to be thinking about how we can counteract these ideas. And it should be incredible, the amount of richness of ideas that these guys came with. And we are very, very at the same time trying to not allow to go so far away, because you need to give also the ideas of the late adopters and the non-adopters. So get to how to say that, to hold back some of these ideas and not try to put all them in some full bloom in this process of the workshop.
Yeah, great. I saw your hand, Brian. Do you have a question you'd like to ask?
Yeah, actually, following up, I had overlooked the fact that the group from Paulista University were mostly geographers, and this was also maybe the first time that you had done one of these geodesign sorts of projects. So I'm curious, you know, Paulo, when you look at their project, or Andrea and Anna, when you look at Paulo's project, do you see big differences in the approaches because you're coming from different backgrounds?
Yes, I think there are some different approaches, but it's all very reaching because everyone gives its own contribution, and it's very, very, very complementary. I think you should get some ideas and you can counteract with other ideas, and so you can get more rich, get a full board of possibilities that emerge from these different backgrounds. I think it's enriching to have these different backgrounds. Of course, the works ends in a different way, but it's okay. I think you can compare now. And for the next steps, you can try to interchange more these different informations and the insights that you got from different groups.
I mean, I agree with Paulo. I think it's all the different fields have different contributions. I mean, I think the ideal would be to have the groups working together. It might be a next step, instead of having one group of architecture students and one group of geography students. The more interesting would be to put them all together, working and exchanging ideas. But I don't think there is all the, I mean, the dynamics are different, but in the end, the contributions are really big from both sides.
I think for the question in our project, actually, so we didn't, reach the geodesign framework goal. Is like everyone, like different stakeholders from discipline to join the planning process. So actually we do divide our students into 3 different teams, but we mix their background, with landscape architecture, and planning. So in each book, definitely, all students are from different departments. So this is a better way to organize their knowledge. And due to the pandemic, I would like to share interesting things happened. Actually, we don't have like a normal field trip to observe the conditions of the field, but we use the innovative strategies like a virtual field trip. Actually, we use a VR, we use like the live shows to showcase the place, and in different periods of time, students can join our lab room to see how their location look like. So this is unusual, conditions, and we are trying our best to let them aware what kind of a place they want to address, and trying to be as reality, as real as possible. So I think for the future work, we will, fully considering, and we will work hard trying to bring them in as a real teamwork. So in terms like share the knowledge from each other is not the competition. So right now we can see our outcome, is have a different level. We have a better outcome, and a little bit is not as good as the the best ones, but at least they are sharing knowledges, they are sharing their expertise. So they are learning how to make a decision together.
I think that what Louis said is very, very important, because you develop this in a special time. Now, during this pandemic, we are all in remotes. We are not able to get together around the table and try to risk over paper together. You're not able to put these papers on walls and try to discuss together. You get always to intermediate through internet, through remotely, through these Zoom rooms like now. And it was not so fruitful, I think, for a studio in a way that we are more used to do this kind of works. Now it's a little different, but at the same time, opened another possibility that you got people from another country, like Lima, Peru, participating with us here together, or people from another state, from northern Brazil. So you got a lot of possibilities that these new technologies will be able to put together people from different areas, from geographically dispersed situation. But the other way, you lose the possibilities to creative process of writing together and drawing together and putting this in paper and hanging these papers up for discussions as in a normal situation for a studio. That was the point you missed most.
Anna or Andrea, do you want to jump in and add anything to that?
I'm okay. I don't know if Andrea wants to say anything. I mean, I agree, and hopefully we will soon be able to get the best from both scenarios, to work with the people who are away, but also to be close to our colleagues and being able to draw and to sit on a table.
Chanji, do you want to add something about the future direction of our studio?
Yeah, I think I personally learned a lot about at least the technicality part of it. How can I set up all the equipment to do a live stream from the field? Because we have this COVID protocol that we worry about students and couldn't take them to the site. So for them to learn about the site, we think that the best way is to just deliver this in this way. But I think still the best way is to be there and to learn about the study area. So it will be better, as everyone has mentioned. So
great. Well, we're about to get kicked out. So thank you everyone for coming, and thank you especially to our presenters. They were very interesting, very good presentation.